welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. NumberNine.
And this is The Fool.
Your 96 best place to listen to...
For 10 years.
Yes, for our 10th season of our mostly up-to-date...
And unqualified. And unrequested.
ramblings of the various issues in the world of sport.
Or something like that.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our bread and butter and maybe also our rice and dal. It's the football and the Premier League.
Yeah.
I've been away on holiday for the last 2 weeks and been back in New Zealand for the last 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And I very, very strongly avoided watching any Premier League because it was very, very depressing as a Manchester United fan. We're technically still in the top 10 and, at least I'm not a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably a good choice avoiding it. What can I say? We've won our relegation dogfight, so, that's good. We're keeping clear of that, so I think that's showing that they're going to meet their targets for the year of not getting relegated. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. I believe there's it's an international break this week, so we're on a 2-week break before the games come back on again. So it's a good time to look at where every team's at. There's only been 8 games so far this season. I know both United and Chelsea have looked awful, so we're not basing this on the results look bad. It's the product looks bad.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some things I don't want this to be a super negative podcast, so I'll just say that I think there are things in there that I like from the team. I think the idea of what they're trying to do with Andre Onana, and we knew as United fans that he was going to make some mistakes. He was going to make some howlers because he's probably used to a more solid and better ball playing defenders, and they just need to get used to it. Hopefully in a few weeks we'll see an improvement there. And also I think Rasmus Højlund is the real deal. As he's shown, he's super quick, he's got the shot, he's got the confidence, he's still got so much to improve. I mean, he's so he's a very different player, I think, to Erling Haaland. There's a lot of jokes, even I made them, his name sounded sort of like Haaland, and he's sort of vaguely from the same area of the world. He's only 1 inch shorter, and everyone made the jokes, but those thing was that we hadn't seen much of him, and he would in Italy he looked really raw, and he is really raw, but there's a lot of talent there, and if the coaching staff at United level him up, if he adds heading, being able to play off his chest, and if good positional ability means he could cover false 9 or as an actual out and out striker as well. Yeah. The world is his oyster. He can become a very, very good player in the Premier League. I don't know whether United have that coaching capability in them, but he's already a pretty good player. I'd hate to see that sort of talent become the next Anthony Martial. To be fair to Anthony Martial, he's obviously had injuries as well. On top of that. So what's your positives for Chelsea?
I think the positives is that it feels like the Pochettino style is starting to come in, and last game was actually not too bad. I think there's still players that perhaps they've decided to keep that perhaps they shouldn't have, and also we've got injury/suspension issues all over the place. So the positives, I guess, is the young kids, the youth. We've got a few of the younger players playing, who wouldn't necessarily be there if it wasn't for the injuries and suspensions, and they've been doing really good. So once again, youth come to save Chelsea, which is always a positive.
And also, even your recruits, it was always going to be difficult to mold them in. And Pochettino wasn't the coach when a bunch of them were brought into the club. But they're young and they are talented. They should retain a lot of value, even if you don't sell them for a profit. And they're on long-term contracts, so from an FFP perspective, it's easy to play around. There's a lot of things being done cleverly at the top level at Chelsea. There's a lot of things that are not, but there's a lot of things, I think, that side that's being done correctly. And if Pochettino gets the team going, I don't know about this season. This might be the season where Poch just has to learn about his team. But next season it could be.
Because I can see where it's going, which is good. I feel like it's might not have the greatest season this season, and I was feeling a little bit more positive before the start of the season than I am right now. But at the same time, I sort of feel like I can see where this is going. I do know what the team will look like and how that will be a good thing. So exactly having 5 injuries / suspensions or 6 or whatever stupidly high number it is.
Yeah, and this is a weird thing. You're so affected by injuries despite having such a large squad of players. I think Chelsea, we know Pochettino is a proven manager at Premier League level, but he hasn't. The league has changed so much since he's been here, and even though it's not been that long ago that he was in the Premier League. But at Chelsea, he will get recruitment, at least. At Tottenham, there was 2 or 3 seasons where they just didn't refresh the squad, and he still took them to the Champions League final. And, Tottenham, as a club, didn't sell well. I don't that's not fair. They didn't refresh players well, refresh squad players, and do that sort of stuff. Chelsea will not have that problem, I don't think. They've never had that problem. Not in the Ken Bates era, not in the Abramovich era, I don't think that'll in the American era either. And American Premier League owners tend to be patient with their managers, give them time. I don't know if Todd Bowley will do the same thing, because he's already on his 3rd manager.
But
I feel like he gives the vibe of a guy who wants a manager to do a long-term project. He doesn't he's not worried about the short term. No. And the way he's developed the contracts and the kind of players they've bought, Clear Lake and him have bought, supports it. There's other evidence just apart from the manager firing, and you can't blame him. He had to kind of fire Tuchel because it wasn't working, and there was too much of a personality clash between them. And Graham Potter was, that situation just became untenable at one point. And
to be fair, I feel like Bowley let that go as long as he possibly could. He clearly wanted to keep Potter, but it just became to the point where they just couldn't. It was just impossible to do. So Tuchel was clearly just was not. It wasn't a manager that was going to work with him. He couldn't work with Tuchel. It just was not personality clash. Or even a working style clash. The whole thing, there was no connection, no synergy.
Thomas Tuchel is not an easy manager to work with.
No.
He's had issues with a lot of the clubs he's worked at, and I'm not necessarily blaming him, but he does have a strong personality. He has a particular way he wants, and Chelsea kind of made him do a lot of work that's not on his job description after Roman Abramovich sold the club.
And it's exactly things that changed rapidly for him that he didn't come in to do, wasn't expected to do beforehand, and then suddenly, oh hey, here's all this extra work for you. How about you sort this out? So I can definitely feel for him for being this is not my job. Why am I having to do this?
Why am I general manager? Why am I figuring out who to buy? That is not my role. And I think it's just one of those things that people, I think Thomas Tuchel very much has a this was the kind of company that I was being brought into, and this was the role, and I accepted that.
Yeah.
There was ups and downs, and there were issues, but that's what I accepted, and this is no longer the case, and I'm being asked to do a bunch of stuff that I have no clue how to do realistically, and I don't want to do, which is also fair enough, right?
Exactly.
This is like the times when your manager's not there, and they're like, "Can you be the 2IC?" And you're like, okay. Okay, like if I wanted to be a manager, I would be a manager.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you don't mind it if it's an occasional thing, but he literally had to run a transfer window.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just
And
go run a transfer window, sort out what you need. Like, no, this is not my thing.
But I think Chelsea have, I think you can tell the sort of players Chelsea want to buy, so I wouldn't be too worried long term. Short term, I think both United and Chelsea have to worry about relegation. It's definitely possible still.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't get recruitment in defense. In the off season, but in the January transfer window, like both, ironically, even Chelsea will have to buy players in the January transfer window, despite like buying everyone already. Find a player they haven't already bought. That's gonna be the challenge.
That's the scouting challenge. It's like, is there anyone out there that we haven't actually bought yet? Like, who's left?
But staying on the positive note, Tottenham Hotspur, Ange Ball is real.
Definitely real.
Shout out to the orange-haired man and his team. He must be thrilled, and why not? Why not Tottenham Hotspur?
Why
you
not?
Picked an Australian player Australian manager who just kind of is the most Australian person I've ever. He's Greek, so that's as Australian as you can get. He's a Greek man from Melbourne who loves football, like the Australian football man. That's that's the stereotypical Australian football man. You think an East European person from Melbourne, like immediately comes into your head, right?
Exactly.
And he's gotten into management, and he's got this style, and he knows who he is, and you gotta love that about a person, not just a manager, like a guy who knows who they are and kind of like, but isn't all like, oh yeah, Meyer or the highway. There, he's like, he uses that to be like a functional person. Like knows who he is and uses that to be a good manager.
No, it is good. Though my sons did make a funny comment, which is that they're backing Tottenham to win this year, only because they think it's the funniest thing ever for Harry Kane to leave to go look, hunting trophies, for then Tottenham to actually be good and win trophies.
And Bayern not to win because they're in trouble.
Yeah, and Bayern
in Germany. Of all things, Bayern Munich not winning. Yeah. I'm not saying Harry Kane deserves something like that to happen to him, but it would be funny.
It would be.
And they have a very winnable run of games in October for the rest of this month. Fulham and Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And then obviously they face Chelsea. Potentially another winnable game for them, like at home at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yeah.
And they play Wolves and Aston Villa, and then they play City. And I will point out that they're playing City at the Etihad. While I'm not saying that that's a given that they can win that, but they did beat City last year, and I think in fact thrashed City last year.
Ooh, potentially, yes. I remember it being a decent win. So
I think it's a good time to play City heading into December with a run of very winnable games, and then having that momentum and a squad that's kind of humming. Like Son Heung-min is like found a whole new life, it feels like, and going into the Christmas and December period, their place. That's when their tough run of games start. They've got West Ham, Newcastle, as I said, City before that, and then they play a bunch of teams that are going to be in the relegation battle or thereabouts. Forest, Everton, and then they've toughish games again. Brighton, Tottenham Hotspur before and so I think Spurs should be feeling good. I'm not suggesting they will win the Premier League, but they've got as good a chance as any team, I think.
Yeah.
At this stage.
At this stage, yeah. Yeah, say
and they shouldn't be afraid.
And momentum and positively around the club sends you a long distance, right?
Yeah, I think, and from memory, Spurs are only in the Conference League, if I'm not wrong. So they're not going to be, or they were fifth, right? So they're in the Europa League.
No, last year they were eighth. They were nothing.
They're in nothing, so they don't have to worry about Europe. They don't have any in. If they in the January transfer window, they have a bunch of Harry Kane money.
Yeah.
They can really carefully look at what they need to get those reinforcements.
Yeah.
And and they've got a couple of weeks of no games before they play Manchester United in mid-Jan. So it's at that point, who knows how good or bad United will be?
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing, I think their biggest concern will be the fact that Arsenal look incredibly good.
They
do
as well, yes.
The North London teams are both humming along. Obviously, Chelsea's big test against Arsenal this next week, rather. But and they play Sheffield United, but they've got a Champions League game against Sevilla. Obviously, the fact that Arsenal have to play in Europe is going to be a disadvantage for them when it comes to playing again, going up against Tottenham in the league.
Yeah,
they've got Sevilla, and they've also got a game against PSV Eindhoven before the Christmas fixtures come up. So they've got a bunch of extra. Oh, and game against Lens as well.
Yeah.
Two games against Sevilla. So there's some tough games, tough European games, and their Premier League games are against Chelsea, Sheffield United, West Ham, Newcastle. There's some tough game. Brentford. There's definitely some tough games in there. But they've also got some very winnable games. I think Sheffield United. They're playing Luton Town. Aston Villa is going to be a tough game away, and then.
Yeah.
They've got Brighton before Christmas, before the Christmas games start. So, and their Christmas fixtures are pretty tough. They've got Liverpool, West Ham, and then Fulham.
Yeah.
So Tottenham have an easier run of fixtures leading up to Christmas, and Arsenal, I feel like, are not going to mess too much with the mojo. They might get one or two more extra players in the January window, but I think Mikel Arteta is not going to want to disrupt squad harmony too much. He did get David Raya in and got rid of Ramsdale.
Yeah.
That's already caused like a big... I mean, Arsenal still are in a good position in the league, but that's clearly caused some chemistry issues in the dressing room. So we'll see how that progresses along.
Yeah.
I still like Manchester City, but like I said, I would be, and Saka also supposedly apparently withdrawing from England due to an injury, so that's not good news for them either.
No.
But I think overall they can be very confident because, if it comes down to winning derbies against Spurs, I think Arsenal's at the last couple of years have had the better of it against Spurs in those games.
Felt that way, yeah.
So I wouldn't be quote unquote afraid of Spurs either. Like I would be quite confident.
Yeah.
Nick, and also they've beaten Manchester City, so they've overcome a very big
Exactly.
a big test. I still think, keeping in that positive note, Manchester City are the favorites to me. Obviously, every year they have a few things to tinker around with because Pep Guardiola always has to tinker around a bit every few seasons to keep the players motivated, try new things, decide, and because everybody adapts to Guardiola, right? So he has to spend the first half of the season adapting to everybody, reacting to him, and then he comes up with this thing, and everybody goes, "Oh my God, he's changed the game again."
Yeah, well, exactly.
The City obviously are also still in the Champions League. They have a game against Brighton. They have a game against Young Boys back in Zurich, and they have a game the Manchester Derby on the 30th of October, just before Halloween. Yep, ghosts and ghouls going to affect the Red Devils. Then they play Bournemouth, Young Boys again, Chelsea, Liverpool, and then Leipzig, and then obviously Spurs at the beginning of the month, like we mentioned. Yeah, it's a tough run of games for City, I think. Obviously, they've got Europe to deal with as well. Young Boys are a banana peel team in the Champions League. They always seem to cause a bit of trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Big team every now and then. Leipzig is obviously a good team. I can't take them lightly. They've got Liverpool. They've got Chelsea, United, which might be give-me games for them, but it's United at Old Trafford, so they tend United.
Yeah, and back at Stamford Bridge for the Chelsea game as well. So
yeah, so potentially those are games where those two teams the crowd could get behind the team and it could be difficult. So this is the making. If I think this run of Premier League games before they play Spurs, if they can win 3 out of those 4 games, and including beating Liverpool, I think there's a stew going. City are back, Yeah.
Well, they never really went away, but yeah.
Yes, excuse me. Yeah, that's exactly right. And they'll end up playing teams like Red Star in the Champions League before Christmas, and they play Luton Town just before Christmas as well. But they are going away to the Club World Cup. Just before the Christmas fixtures. So that's the other side. So City have a very crowded schedule. So if there is any year for you to beat City, this is the year to do it.
Yeah.
They've won everything. Players are complacent. Guardiola's done his second treble at a new club. So, yeah. This is when you come in and try and do what you need to do. And
exactly. You say nice crowded fixtures for them. So
exactly.
Even the City squad is going to be stretched to its maximum with all these fixtures that they've got to deal with. So
yes, but I imagine they will get some January signings in, if only to cover injured players. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And somehow these players will be people we've never heard of, but turn out to be like world-beating level players.
Exactly.
Following on, 4th place, we have Liverpool. Bit unlucky with VAR so far, but despite that, they've still in the competitive end of the season, and they've looked really, really good in a lot of games. They've got a local derby against Everton, obviously playing at Anfield. Everton are terrible. They've got Toulouse in the Europa League, and then Nottingham Forest. Then they play Bournemouth, Luton Town, Toulouse again, before they face Brentford, and then Manchester City as we mentioned previously, there's a lot of Europa fixtures. Europe, and I don't think any club can, like, if you're a Europa League club in England, because it's so competitive at the top now, I know there's going to be potentially 5 teams qualify for the Champions League because of the legacy spots.
Yeah.
But that being said, you want to try and also win the Europa League to be there or thereabouts, or at least be there at the business end if you know that, we're very unlikely to finish 5th, but we're at the business end of the Europa League and that'll get us Champions League.
Yeah.
If need. Their Premier League fixtures, other than obviously City, are winnable.
Definitely
like
winnable,
Liverpool are in a position where they can leapfrog City. They've also got, and then leading up to Christmas, they've got a bunch of games, but tough games, but they're at home, so they play United in Anfield. They'll be playing Arsenal in Anfield, which is, if you're going to play them, this is what you want. Play them at home during Christmas fixtures. Burnley away, which is like, yep, that's a fixture you want on the day after Boxing Day. And just before New Year's, they play Newcastle. So that is the tough run of fixtures. That'll make or break Liverpool's season, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, Liverpool, as always, there's this caveat of, injuries will be very devastating for them, because the squad is thin. Like, Mohamed Salah or Trent Alexander-Arnold get injured. Like, there's nobody else like them in the world, let alone in Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly. You lose so much if those two go down.
Or one of those two, any one of those two, I think. I mean, they'll still be very good because, Jurgen Klopp is a very good manager, but that's it. There's no, but it'll be very difficult for them in that situation. But I think definitely, but the lead up to Christmas is very good. They've got winnable games.
Very winnable.
It's just crowded. It's just a very crowded fixture list. So
a lot of those games in there.
Cautiously optimistic if I were Liverpool, I think.
Yeah, no, I would be too. Say, other than the City game, which is at the Emirates.
Yeah.
It's, the other two slightly difficult games is Brentford and Fulham, who aren't necessarily super awesome this year. Like, this year they're not playing as well as they had in previous years. But both of those are at home for Liverpool anyway, so once again, things that where you want to be playing these teams.
Exactly.
This first half of the season sort of turned out pretty well for Liverpool, so I think they should be doing reasonably well right through to the Christmas, to say, with just the little asterisk there of there's lots of games, so if any one of them
this is why
comes knocking.
Games is what's worrying for Liverpool, because if they had a really big squad of players they could play in those Europa games and all that, that would be one thing, or blub them in those easier games on the lead up, that would be one thing. But the Premier League's very competitive and you don't want to drop points now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that's the hard part for this season, and I think if they can get through to that Christmas period without having any injuries, that's gonna be like they're in pole position. They could leapfrog City and potentially be competing with the North London clubs. I could see this season have a top 4 place that's separated by less than 3 points between first and fourth.
Yeah.
Because that's how good those 4 teams have looked.
That is the current status, right? Like, currently it is 3 points between Tottenham and first and Liverpool and fourth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm with you. You can easily see that those 4 just accelerating away together and just keeping that that differential between them and really have come down to a game or 2 here and there. It's potentially already done with City losing 2, which is crazy to think of.
Exactly. Next up, we have Aston Villa, who are jealously guarding their fifth place position, hoping to qualify for the Champions League. Assuming that all goes through well, obviously, there's a lot of pressure for, like I said, for the English clubs to do well in Europe season just to maintain that legacy spot. I think it's very difficult for England not to be one of the top two coefficients, but the math is not exactly straightforward to work out. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
They've got their run of games. They've got Europa Conference League, of course. They're playing. This is the thing. For Premier League clubs in the Conference League, whichever team plays in the Conference League, I always feel like they should automatically be a favorite to make the final. There is almost no club, especially in like the first couple of group stages and probably the first round of knockouts, that should be, unless they happen to face like a very unlucky situation somehow, there should be no club that can compete with them, like financially, squad quality, everything. Like they should be very winnable games.
Yeah. I mean, looking at it, I mean, you got Eintracht Frankfurt in there somewhere.
I've got AZ Alkmaar. Yeah.
Ghent
but like
round.
the clubs like your Club Bruges, your Eintracht Frankfurt, your AZ Alkmaar, they're fine your clubs with good European pedigree. They don't have the money to compete with Premier League clubs.
No.
And it's not quite like that at the Europa League level, because in the Europa League you'll randomly have a team like an AC Milan somehow occasionally, or a Sevilla or a and like that gap may end up happening there in the Europa League as well eventually, but it's not there yet. Conference League definitely is.
I'm just saying, these are the teams that I look at and go, potentially they could, in a good year they would have, their players could be good enough and the money, but if you're looking at it as averages over years, there's no reason to say the English team shouldn't be well ahead of the curve there. As you say, the money's going to tell in that. It's just whether there's teams there that would have maybe nearly enough money and enough prestige that they could be getting some good players or have players play well. So
basically maybe. The first ever Conference League, Leicester should have won. They randomly met Jose Mourinho in a final. Okay, like that's the sort of bad luck you need to not win Conference League if you're an English club. And basically, when and the next year West Ham went to the final, are you Jose Mourinho? No? Okay, we win. There you go. Done.
Exactly.
So looking at Villa's fixtures, I've got West Ham at home. Like West Ham have been good this season so far, but they're at home. Villa are being strong at Villa Park. They're playing Luton Town at home as well. Very winnable games this month. And also only 3 fixtures to play in this month, despite being in Europe. They've got Nottingham Forest away, but also, like, yes, I know it's a local derby and all that, and people, the fans in Nottingham are going to be up for it, but it's going to be very, very tough for them to beat a rampant Villa. They play Alkmaar at home again, and then they've got Fulham and Spurs, so that's a bit tougher. And then they play Legia Warsaw, Bournemouth, and before they hit Manchester City. So even at game at home to Manchester City, they shouldn't be afraid. They have some momentum leading up to it.
Yeah, well, exactly.
They might even look to try and get into a 4th position in that sort of situation. They've got Arsenal at home as well. That's going to be a tough game for both teams. Yeah. And then they go and play against Zrinjski Mostar. 10 points if you can name the country where the Zrinjski Mostar is from. You're a 90s child, so I expect you to know this answer.
Yeah. Oh, my brain's not picking anything up.
It's the city of Mostar was in the news a lot in the 90s.
Oh. Well, no, I can't pick it up. Go Eastern European somewhere. But...
Yes, obviously it's Eastern European. They're in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Ah, right, of course.
Or infamously rather, in the Yugoslav Wars, city of Mostar had a long siege, and it was in the news a lot for unfortunate reasons.
Very unfortunate.
I've got, but we're keeping it positive. It's a great city now with where both their local Croatian, Bosnian, and Jewish community live together and have moved on, and it's they get a lot of tourists because it's a really great medieval architecture. Not that I've ever been.
Yeah.
They've got play Brentford and Sheffield United. They play Brentford before the Christmas fixtures. They play Sheffield United, Manchester United, and Burnley. Very winnable games for Villa. I know Manchester United is at Old Trafford. Who knows what Manchester United will be at?
Yeah.
Villa, once again, I think legitimate reasons to be optimistic for the rest of the year. For a club that's playing in Europe, they've only got the 3 fixtures. It's not that as crowded as City, for example, or Arsenal.
Yeah.
And look, Champions League clubs are playing against really tough opponents. They're in the Champions League, as are the Europa League clubs. And like I said, no Conference League club from England should be worried about their opposition.
Yeah, exactly.
I
guess the only issue for that last group stage match for Villa, since it's heading all the way over to Bosnia, so it is a bit of it's not that far, I know, it's modern day travel and everything, but still, that just adds a little bit more. That's the only little bit of tension that is possibly there. And then 2 days later, coming back to play Brentford away. Luckily for them, perhaps Brentford hasn't been having the best, so it might not be as hard as it may have been in the past. So last year, see how it goes, really. A bit of a short turnaround, really, just 2 days between travelling to the far side of Europe. So
I will point out potentially Brentford have Ivan Toney back.
Oh, potentially, yes.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if they play him, though.
I think exactly. We'll see how that plays out for them. But I think, like I said, legitimate reasons for Brentford to be, optimistic.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Brighton and Hove Albion. The Seagulls they play Manchester City. Yep. Look, this is the time Manchester City are down. People have been attacking them while they've been knocked down on the floor. So Brighton and Hove, or it could be the opposite. They could be angry and rearing to go. So I think the thing with Brighton and Hove Albion is that De Zerbi is basically the philosophy of De Zerbi is almost like Guardiola plus. He's an even more rigid positional manager.
Yeah.
Who wants everything to go exactly the way he wants it to go, every player to be in that. So he's got it done. I don't know what. That's going to be a super entertaining game. That's all I can say. I think it's going to be really, really good. It's a tough game, but obviously, then they next have Ajax Amsterdam to play in the Europa. So this is what I mean by Conference League, Europa League. These guys play a 4-time European champion.
Yeah.
And the other team, AZ Alkmaar have won the Dutch league once.
Yeah.
So then they play Fulham. And then they have a game against Everton before the return fixture against Ajax. To be fair to them, Ajax are currently going through the doldrums in a big way. Like, one of the things Ajax fans I know have been talking about is they hope United fire Ten Hag so he comes back to Ajax.
Yeah.
So they're hoping United play badly. I mean, maybe Louis van Gaal can help them again. It just seems to be what he does nowadays. He said that he doesn't want to manage. He's got health issues, to be fair.
Right,
He said that I will be a consultant. I will help whoever is in charge if they want my help and any assistance I can give them, but I'm not going to manage a club.
Right,
But he always says that, right? Like, that's like the Louis van Gaal code of I feel like managing a club. Then they got a game against Sheffield United and then Nottingham Forest. Look, these are not games that other than Manchester City, all these games are winnable for Brighton. Nothing for them to be afraid of. Then heading into December, the Europa fixture against AEK Athens. Going to Greece is always a bit rough, but they shouldn't be worried about a team like AEK. Then they play Chelsea. And then the the sworn enemies of their owner, Brentford, and then Burnley before they play Marseille. They play 2 Champions League winning clubs in their Europa group. Just like, how unfair is that? Not that I think Marseille are gonna trouble Brighton. I'm just saying, like, this is the difference between Europa League and Conference League.
I mean, Brighton is struggling a bit in their group. They are currently bottom of it, but there isn't really a lot in that group. Everybody's sort of drawing with each other. So AEK Athens has already beaten Brighton in Brighton, and then everybody else, and then every other game in that group is just draws. So
yeah,
sort of says a lot about that group, I think.
Exactly. I don't know how De Zerbi is going to approach the Europa League, but it's not something I think any club. I don't think you can. If you're a club in Europe, I don't think you can afford to waste your opportunities in the Europa League. That's like your backup. That's going to get you a Champions League spot if you win it.
Exactly.
If you don't get that legacy spot, 5th, then if Brighton finish 7th, 8th, or 6th, then and they get that extra Champions League spot, that's exactly what they want. Then they've got Arsenal just before Christmas starts, and then they play Crystal Palace, Spurs, and West Ham. It's not an easy run of fixtures.
No.
It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. I think Brighton are more than capable of coming through with a decent amount of points, but I don't think we're going to see a lot. They're not going to be rampaging through. But I feel like they can maintain their 6th place, and they're obviously, as you mentioned, they are bottom of their Champions League group, but they haven't played that many games yet in that group.
Only the 2 games, so
3.
A loss and a draw is their loss, so it's not like it's the worst things in the world.
And they're playing Ajax at the right time, I think. Ajax look like they might even get relegated this season. That's how bad they've been.
Yeah, I saw that. When you say they're going through a rough patch, they're going through a rough patch.
Yeah, and then if they have that momentum, if they do the double against Ajax, which I think they will, then I think, the return fixture in Athens is not gonna. They could be up for it to try and get revenge on AEK.
Yeah.
So definitely it's a good position for them to be in, I think. I think they can definitely maintain. They might even go up a spot depending on how teams above them go, but they're only goal difference, 2 goal difference, so it's like the barest of margins.
Yeah.
Early doors, etc., all those caveats. So I wouldn't be too worried about Brighton. I think they've got a lot going for them at the moment. Next up, we have West Ham United. The Hammers have been playing really well so far this season.
Yeah.
And including in Europe, they're only a couple of points behind Brighton. David Moyes is still improving this team. They've got a game against Aston Villa before they play Olympiacos. Going to Greece is always tough, as I said, and Olympiacos is a tougher place to go to than Ica.
Yeah.
Before they play Everton at home, which should be a win. Then they have a London derby against Arsenal. Then they play another London derby against Brentford, and then the return fixture against Olympiacos. That's a tough run of games for them, other than that potentially that Everton game. But kind of eases up. They play Forest, they play Burnley, and then they play TSC Baka Tapoa. And you know what I'm going to ask you? What country is TSK Baka Tapoa from?
You go all the way to Bulgaria? Does it go that far?
Well, yeah.
Sounding Bulgarianish.
Sounding Bulgarianish? Okay, they're from Serbia.
Oh,
so.
Okay. Too far for me then. Not quite as far east.
Not quite as far east. Then. And West, then they play Crystal Palace at home, and then Tottenham Hotspur, and then Fulham. So they're not traveling much. A lot of their games are staying in London before they play Freiburg in Freiburg, and then they play Wolves. Then obviously they've got their tough Christmas fixtures: United, Arsenal, and Brighton.
Yeah.
So West Ham. There's a bunch of, they're playing a lot of London derbies. You never know how they'll play out. Like I said, there's a couple of very winnable games against teams like Everton and potentially Nottingham Forest as well. Yeah. But I think they've, because it's a bunch of London derbies and they're playing a few of them at home. I think they could come through with some points, play spoiler to a bunch of the teams above them. Taking the optimistic side of things, I think West Ham could maintain that position as well. West Ham are a good shot for winning the Europa League, I think.
Oh yeah,
they're very, very good in Europe at the moment. They're in a group that they can win. They could sweep the group realistically.
Yeah, so far they're 2 from 2, so they're looking very good in their group.
Olympiacos is going to be the other team, right? That's the team that they need to beat. And
the Olympiacos is not looking as great as they could do, but
yeah.
So I guess one of the losses is against West Ham. So
yeah, exactly. Then they go to I could see West Ham coming out of this group going all the way to the final. They might put back-to-back European trophies for West Ham under Moyes. I think a really great redemption arc for David Moyes. I think that would be really, really great outcome for them. Jared Bowen's back in some sort of form. They're arguably better without Rice. Is that how it's working now? You lose your best player and you become better?
Apparently. That's the West Ham model.
Quickly, City, sell us Haaland.
Yeah. It's your only way. It's how you win.
Yes. Exactly. But West Ham definitely, if they win the Europa League, qualifying for the Champions League, I can't say it wouldn't be deserved. They've been playing really well in Europe this season.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they can maintain this position, I don't think they're a team going we can win the Premier League. They're realistic about their chances, and I don't think they're even expecting to potentially finish in a top 5 spot.
Yeah.
Long run, because they know they have a long run of fixtures, and they're gonna have a tough run of games coming ahead. But yeah, Europe. They should target the Europa League, and I think they can do very well in the Europa League. next up, we have the Magpies, Newcastle United. So far, they're not at the heights they were last season, but they are in Europe this season in a reasonably tough group. So they open their next fixture is against Crystal Palace before they play BVB in the Champions League, and then they play Wolves. Yeah, this is the sort of stuff we're talking about. Borussia Dortmund, that's not a team you want to play in your group. And they have Paris Saint-Germain in their group as well. So, yay!
And AC Milan, is it? Yeah. So.
Yeah, AC Milan.
Like I said, that's a great group to be in.
No easy fixtures in the Champions League.
No.
Real Madrid lost to Sheriff Tiraspol at Real Madrid. At home, so if you're in the Champions League group stages, you are a bona fide good club. That's not gonna. So their Premier League fixtures are not much easier either. They're playing, like I said, Crystal Palace and Wolves. Then Manchester United in the Carabao Cup at Old Trafford. And then they play Arsenal in the Premier League before going to Bournemouth and then hosting Chelsea, and then they play PSG. Whew. Yeah. And then they open December with Manchester United, and then they take maybe Everton. Maybe Everton will be a breather for them, and then they've got Spurs, then AC Milan.
Yeah, so Everton could be a breather, except it's at Goodison Park. So going to Goodison Park is never a breather, right? No matter how good or bad Everton is, it is not a breather there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Newcastle.
They've got and then they play AC Milan at home and then Fulham at home. And then their Christmas fixtures kind of light at the beginning with Luton and Nottingham Forest before they get to play Liverpool. So, woof! Yeah. This is a tough run of fixtures, but they get through it. Oof. Newcastle could start pushing up the league.
Yeah.
Alexander Isak has been on form. If he doesn't get injured like he did last season, he will. And Callum Wilson is so far not getting injured either. So goals are not a problem.
Yeah.
Eddie Howe has sorted the defense, and look, they've already beaten PSG. So even in the Champions League, tough group or not, you can take. Not only did they beat PSG, right? They thrashed PSG.
Yeah, they really did.
So they're showing people that they belong at that level.
Yeah. And they went to Milan and drew there. So
yeah,
I think that's showing. Yeah, same. They're definitely showing that they belong in the Champions League.
And Newcastle don't have a thin squad. There's a decent amount of players, and Newcastle always have a decent group of academy players. Eddie Howe's going to have to be at his best, but there's no reason Newcastle can't. They were very unlucky to draw to West Ham. Not that. I said unlucky is not the wrong word, but West Ham got a late equalizer to get the points. So there's a few. Newcastle is more likely to draw games they should win than lose games they should win. If that makes sense.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So this is why I think potentially they could go up the ladder. I think also they're a team that definitely can make the knockouts. Champions League, you can't tell what's going to happen till the knockout draw is there. But
yeah, exactly.
But I don't think Newcastle should be afraid of any team in the Champions League. If they can thrash PSG and they can potentially beat AC Milan, that shows you belong. And BVB are a beatable team too. They shouldn't be afraid of going to Dortmund or hosting them.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I think Newcastle, as you say, should not be afraid there. That's it. I think they got the right sort of form, especially they play them first at home. That will give home crowd and everything gives them that extra push. should be able to win that, and that will give them the confidence when they go over Dortmund. Take on there. So potentially come away with a win or a draw there. So and that would go a long way to getting them up to the knockouts. Really, just those 2 games.
Exactly. And next up, we have Crystal Palace, who've been playing really well this season so far, currently in 9th place. And we're not surprised. It's basically the sort of thing that Roy Hodgson does for Crystal Palace. He's taken their next game is up at Newcastle before they play Spurs. So only the 2 games this month left. Then they play Burnley, Everton, and Luton Town before they play West Ham. That's a good fixture list because you've got some easy games in there, but you've also got some tough games in there to play.
Exactly.
So you're gonna be going through a bit of a gauntlet, but it's not all difficult games. They play Bournemouth and Liverpool and Manchester City before the Christmas period. So December is not an easy fixture list for them. And then in the Christmas period, they've got Brighton, Chelsea, and Brentford. Oof. Right. So, but this is the thing. If Crystal Palace are gonna be a good team, these are the sort of teams they gotta beat. And I put Chelsea in that list, unfortunately, because they're currently below them.
Yeah, exactly.
Crystal Palace did beat Manchester United, who they are currently above, in 1 place above in the table, separated by goal difference at this stage. It's very early days. They've got no European football to worry about. This is their time. I don't necessarily think Crystal Palace is going to compete for one of the European spots, but why not Crystal Palace top 10 finish?
Yeah,
right?
Definitely a top 10 finish, I think. They've shown that they can keep there. So I guess top 10 finish means...
And potentially even one of the cups.
Potentially, yeah.
Obviously you can never tell with the cups, but
yeah.
That's the optimistic approach for Crystal Palace. We did take a bit of an optimistic approach about what United and Chelsea could have.
Yeah.
But let's look at their fixture list, the next 2 teams. United play Sheffield United at Bramall Lane before they play FC Copenhagen, and then they have a local derby against Manchester City, and then another derby game against Newcastle United before they go to Fulham and then play Copenhagen again. FC Copenhagen on most years I would not be afraid of, but they're United are not in good form in Europe at the moment. They're not in good form, full stop, I should say.
Yeah.
So there's not, without being too downhearted, there is some games that are potentially winnable there. They have a game against Everton again, and they will play Galatasaray away. Galatasaray and United have this weird thing of occasionally, they're exchanging games with each other. So they might, Galatasaray wins at Old Trafford and United will go to Istanbul and win, or vice versa. This sort of thing seems to happen between the two of them. FC Copenhagen, we'll see how that works out for them. But yeah, there's a tough run of fixtures before leading into December. It doesn't get much easier because then at the beginning of December they go to St. James Park before going to before hosting Chelsea at Old Trafford. But this is the thing: those games, Chelsea, FC Bournemouth, and Bayern Munich, are all at home and Old Trafford. This is where hopefully the Stretford end will power United to some victories. Then you've got Liverpool at Anfield, West Ham at the London Stadium before you host Villa. and you end the year playing against Nottingham Forest at the Forest Ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, there's a few games in there that are definitely winnable. And there's a bunch of home games they should try. The crowd should try and help the team put in a good performance and maybe hopefully come away with the points. United's big thing is if they can get a result against Manchester City in a couple of weeks' time. If they can do that, if City are still going through a bit of a downturn, that's how you can turn your season around. Otherwise, maybe if Ten Hag gets the sack, we've got maybe Wayne Rooney coming. Look, it works for Chelsea, right? You bring back an old legend who used to manage Derby to come and manage the club.
Just the first time, though. Just once.
Oh, yeah. No, but we'll also do the mistake like you did. Like, we got Mourinho after you guys fired Mourinho.
Yeah, you got to follow in our footsteps, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But to be fair, I think Wayne Rooney did a really good job at Derby.
Yeah.
Given that he nearly kept them from getting relegated, and they had a 20-point deduction.
Oh, well, that's good then, yeah. They had a big point deduction like that. Try to keep them up. That's some good work.
Sure, there was a lot of at that point you're like, there's nothing to lose. We're relegated.
Yeah. 20
points down. But yeah, they did manage to get some results. So he managed to get some results. I don't know if that's what Rooney wants to do. He's also been reasonably successful in the MLS with DC United, so fingers crossed. And it's 100% the type of move the Glaziers would do. Bring back an old club legend to manage the club.
Yeah. It is sort of the thing you can imagine them doing and think it would be a good idea.
Look, nobody in United is going to boo Wayne Rooney.
No.
Okay?
No, I know.
That's at least one thing you can rely on.
I wouldn't think anybody would be booing Super Frankie Lampard either. But you never know.
Yeah. And I said this. Ten Hag is trying to get the team to play more into his system. Hopefully, maybe in the international break we can get some more training sessions in, and we'll put out a better product on the field.
Yeah.
And if you can beat City and win some of those games in the Champions League, the season turns around. People won't remember what this type of season was like because you'll start going. It's just purely because City are not starting that strong. United are already 7 points behind City, and the City are quote unquote not playing that well.
Yeah.
Forget Spurs, who are 9 points ahead. Spurs and Arsenal.
8 points, but yeah.
So there's a lot of work. Sorry, they're on 20, aren't they?
Yeah, you guys are on 12.
You're right. We're on 12, so okay.
Yeah, we're on 11.
You're right. You're on 11, so 9 points away.
Yeah.
So moving on to Chelsea. Once again, no European football, which is, we have to always point out, a big advantage.
Yeah.
Fixture list, they've got only Arsenal and Brentford, and they're both at home.
Yeah.
So now's the time for the Lions to roar. If they're gonna roar this season, they play Blackburn Rovers in the Carabao Cup. Yeah. Once again, winnable fixture. You're playing a championship team. Yeah. They play Spurs at away, City at home, Newcastle away, and then Brighton at home, and then United away before they get to Everton. It's a very tough run of Premier League fixtures for Chelsea.
Very tough, yeah. But,
I want to sound optimistic, but it is very tough. But after that, it gets slightly easier with Everton, Sheffield United, and Wolves.
Yeah.
And then you have Crystal Palace, who knows what sort of position they'll be in at that point. and then you've got Luton Town. So at least the Christmas period is less hectic.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a tough run of fixtures before that Christmas period.
Yeah, you say through to the start of December. That's a pretty tough run from now, pretty much all the way through there. But then
and Chelsea apparently only have one game in January to worry about. I'm sure there'll be FA Cup fixtures that'll be sorted out at that time. But yeah, this is Chelsea this year should be targeting the FA Cup.
It's probably a good plan, I think.
That's how you get into Europe. Chelsea's path to Europe is through the cups.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think either the cups we're going to concentrate on, though. Our start in the Carabao Cup hasn't been the most. I mean, we've won 2 games, but the first game against AFC Wimbledon was not the most reassuring of wins. We got there in the end.
Yes.
So we did manage to pick up the win against Brighton, which is nice after that. But it's not like Brighton's playing a full strength team there.
Yeah. Now, do we want to look at the other side of the table now? So we can bring our negative energy that we've been holding back.
Sure, do you want to go through the relegation fodder?
So, 20th place, we have the Blades, Sheffield United. They host Manchester United before playing Arsenal at away. Then they host Wolves, and then away to Brighton, and then they host Bournemouth before they play before they have a relegation 6-pointer against Burnley.
Yeah.
At the beginning of December. Oof. Not easy.
No. Well. Yeah.
Then they host Liverpool, host Brentford, and then play Chelsea and Aston Villa away before they host Luton, like another relegation 6-pointer, and they end the year playing against Manchester City.
Yeah.
So
what a way to end.
Yeah, so I think Sheffield United are hoping to get some parachute payments to come straight back into the Premier League next season. Is that unfair?
That's not unfair. But I think, the things for Sheffield United is just targeting those relegation games, right? There's some in there that they're just going to... It's damage control, like the City game on the 31st. It's at City, like it's just... Make sure you don't get too big a loss there. Like, what else are you going to do? They'll do their best, I'm sure, but it's really about that. But you say Luton, that's a relegation battle. Got to be winning that one if you want to be staying up. If you're not getting full points out of that, your chances aren't really there. Burnley, got to get it there as well. So.
I think those relegation battles are where we're going to see whether, that's what the proof of the pudding was going to be.
Yeah, and you've got things like Wolves, Brentford, dare I say it, Chelsea, where potentially you can pick up a point or two, or a few points to help yourself up.
Yeah. There is a hope, there is a pathway to not be relegated. It's just very difficult for Sheffield United.
Yes.
And it is those 6-pointers, like you said, that are the key fixtures for them. Next, we have AFC Bournemouth. I think they've been a bit unlucky, to be fair. Bournemouth haven't looked that bad. They've lost a lot of games in strange circumstances. They've got a game. They've host Wolves and Burnley. That's the only 2 fixtures left for them before they play host Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. They may very well play a youth team in that game. Then they play Manchester City away before hosting Newcastle and playing Sheffield United. That relegation 6-pointer up in Sheffield potentially. And then they host before December, where then they start with Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, Manchester United before playing Luton Town. Nottingham Forest and Fulham, and then our current table-topping Spurs at the end of the year. I think because Bournemouth have been scoring goals, Dominic Solanke has been in decent form. I don't think Bournemouth's going to be relegated. I think they are going to pick up points. Those relegation 6-pointers we've been talking about that we've also mentioned for Bournemouth, I feel Bournemouth are going to win those.
Yeah.
And they're going to get up. Like, we all expected Bournemouth to be relegated last season. And they trolled everybody who said they were going to be relegated, and they double trolled us because they didn't play us saying we would get them relegated. So they were just saying that we're not even worth their time, which is, true. Factually, we've never been so accurately trolled in our life. I feel like Bournemouth, and it feels like Everton have already done a great escape. Like they've won a few 6-pointers already. So as much as we predicted Everton was going to go straight down, it doesn't look like they will. I think there are a few teams above Bournemouth who are in trouble. I think Bournemouth are going to somehow scrape through. That's how I feel. I'm feeling Bournemouth.
I'm sort of with you, say. Feeling Bournemouth, and it does come down to those relegation 6-pointers, as you say. You just feel like Bournemouth are going to win those games. You feel like they're going to beat Sheffield United. You feel like they're going to beat Luton Town. And by winning those, that's going to propel them up. And unless something crazy happens where one of those others picks up points where they shouldn't, that should be enough for keeping Bournemouth up in 17th or even potentially 16th place. So that would keep them afloat.
Exactly. Then next up we have Burnley. Now, ironically, I kind of also feel Burnley. I think Vincent Kompany is still going to do it for them. My flip side is I think Bournemouth are more likely to stay up than Burnley, but Burnley have already at least gotten a win under their belt, so the team knows what it feels like to win a Premier League game.
Yeah.
And it was against Nottingham Forest. They
also beat Luton Town. Oh, Nottingham Forest was No, they drew Nottingham Forest in the EPL. They beat Nottingham Forest in the cup.
In the cup, right? You're exactly right. So I think the Burnley, I feel like might also stay up. I still think Everton's going to be relegated. That's just my gut feel. There's just too many issues at the club. There's too much bad vibes. Bad vibes sink teams. And you can't hold that much bad vibes for so long. I mean, Luton, unfortunately, are Luton. That's just gonna... They're gonna get a few fairy tale wins, I think, but they're not gonna... they're not gonna stay up. Look, they can play this recording if they stay up at the end of the season. They're not going to, because they're going to troll us again very accurately, mentioning that we're not worth their time. But having a quick look at the Bees fixtures, Burnley play... Well, it's a B derby with playing against Brentford.
Yeah.
Then they play Bournemouth, both away. Yep. I mean, they're technically, like, both Brentford and Burnley's nicknames are the Bees, right?
Yes.
And
so it's the actual Bees, and then just the letter B.
Just the letter B's, because they have a literal B in their badge as well.
Yeah.
Then they play Everton away. Everton away at the Carabao Cup, and then they host Crystal Palace. And then they play Arsenal before hosting West Ham. This is the thing. I think Burnley are gonna have a relegation 6-pointer against Sheffield United. I feel like that's gonna be a win for them. They're hosting Sheffield United. Then they play Wolves, Brighton before hosting Everton. Another 6-pointer. I expect them to win.
Yeah.
Then it's the Christmas fixtures where they play Fulham, Liverpool, and Villa.
Yeah.
Very tough, very tough. But they're hosting Liverpool. Excuse me, and you never know.
You never know.
That time of year, things happen.
Yeah. It's that slippery middle fixture as well, where crazy things happen.
And Vincent Kompany knows a thing or two about beating Liverpool, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not that I think they're gonna beat Liverpool. Burnley are already, beaten their first fellow relegation struggler, and they're gonna, I think, do more as they go up in the league. I still, like I said, I feel that Burnley are not going to be relegated. They're going to stay up. We predicted Sheffield United, Luton, and I believe Everton before the season.
Yeah, I think that
started.
Right. Yeah.
I think
I may have put Burnley in there instead of Everton. I'm trying to remember, but it was those ones that we're predicting. But I think we both had Burnley staying up as our survivors.
Yeah. But I think they're gonna stay up. Just as a quick note, I'm gonna quickly check out what the championship championship is doing at the moment.
I was going to say, as you're doing that, I was just going to say, for me, for Burnley staying up, the key ones are that Brentford, Wolves, Everton trio games which they got. They've actually got this next couple of months really is quite a leading up to the Christmas fixtures. It's quite an important bit because, say, Brentford, Wolves, Everton are the ones sitting just out of the relegation zone. So winning those means they are dragging them back down and pushing themselves up. They've got Bournemouth and they've got Sheffield United. So two actual relegation fights there. They've just played Luton, and they played Luton, mid-Jan again. So it almost is like this next 2 months or 3 months sort of is Burnley season. Like, this is where they've got a lot of the really key fixtures. They win those ones, suddenly they'll be looking like they're staying up.
Exactly. Just quick glance at the championship. Leicester City, top of the league, to the surprise of no one, I would expect.
Yeah, shock, horror, really? Wow.
Yeah, and they're then there's Ipswich Town.
Mm-hmm.
How would that be if Ipswich Town made it back into the Premier League?
That'd be awesome.
Not that they're going to, because they'll choke, but just saying, how cool would that be? Then we've got Preston North End, the perennial team that never gets promoted, is never part of the promotion conversation or part of the relegation conversation.
Yeah. Always just mid-table.
Basically, champions, because the championship's basically like half the teams are potentially looking to break it to the playoffs, half the team are potentially going to be relegated, and there's Bristol City and Preston North End.
Yeah, just sitting in the middle there.
But yeah, Preston are in third. That would be incredible. I'd love to see Preston in the top tier again. It's not happened since the 50s.
Yeah.
But they're the original Invincibles of the of the English game. So it'd be cool to see the Lambs get back up. And fun fact: Preston City's Invincibles team is what inspired Spurs to change their colors to white, because that's what Preston wear.
Yeah. Well, that is a fun fact.
And we'd have a lily white derby, the two lily white teams.
Oh yeah.
And it'd be cool to see a team two teams that didn't have parachute payments make it straight back up. How cool would that be? Next, we have fourth place. We have Sunderland, Leeds, and the Tom Brady-owned Birmingham City.
Oh yeah.
And sixth, currently that's the playoff picture. I think Cardiff, Norwich, and Hull are thereabouts. Norwich still has some parachute payments. We'll see how that works out for them. Southampton, who we kind of picked to maybe make straight back up, are also in the 17th, so they're still in that playoff picture. Wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the playoffs. Relegation side, we had the Owls, unfortunately, bottom of the table.
Oh no.
Much like the Blades are on bottom of the Premier League. Then got Rotherham and QPR.
I know, sad again.
And you've got Stoke City and Watford. Watford, that low down the table.
I know, they've not had a good start the season at all there.
Yeah, exactly. It's ironic to see the Championship has two clubs that have won the Premier League in it, with Blackburn Rovers and Leicester City.
Yeah.
It's just a cautionary tale of how far you can fall after flying close to the sun.
Yeah, exactly.
But as we know, it's a great league. It's going to be interesting. It's very, very early doors. There's like 40 million games, I want to say, in a championship season, roughly.
42-ish?
42?
More?
Maybe even as high as 44.
Yeah. They say 40 million. I think that's the best estimate to go with.
Yeah. Approximately 40 million games.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so
we could just look at last year's one, and it's 46, just FYI.
46. There we go. Yay!
I mean, there's practicalities, I guess. You could just, look.
That's cheating.
Yeah. The other way was to look to see that it was 24 teams, so 23 times 2 is 46.
That's just for nerds, nerd.
Maths for the win, man. Maths for the win.
Actually, I'm a mathematician, so yeah. Now, moving on from England, we go do a quick look at what's happening around the continent. Real Madrid topping La Liga with Girona.
Ooh.
They're in second place. So currently, the team owned by who's owned by ex-Barcelona player. What's his name? Who used to also play for Manchester United. Cheated on Shakira.
Oh.
Also, Pep Guardiola owns them as well.
Right.
You know the player I'm talking about, right?
Vaguely. No, I can't picture it all.
Alright, he retired end of last year anyway. They're currently second place. It's incredible, to be fair, but they are partially owned by by Pep and Co. Third place we have Barcelona, and fourth we have Atletico Madrid. Basically, other than Girona, this is the old Sesame Street. Three of things belong together. Three of these things, one and the same, but one of these things
not like the other. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, good luck to Girona. We wish you well for the rest of the season. It would be incredible if you finished in the top 4, or heck, first. Who knows?
Who knows? At this point.
Yeah, Barcelona's been playing incredible, but I think this year it's Jude Bellingham's world, and we're all living in it. He's been incredible for Real Madrid. almost had the same impact as Erling Haaland has had for Manchester City last year. Then outside the top four, we've got Athletic Club at 5th, Real Sociedad at 6th. So the two Basque clubs going neck and neck with each other. Real Betis and Rayo Vallecano, followed by Valencia and Las Palmas. So not doing too badly. Real Betis and Valencia, who almost got relegated last season, are doing much better this season.
Yeah.
I think Betis are going to be quite happy that they're well ahead of Sevilla. Near the end, we have Almeria, the perennial club that gets a yo-yo club. Yeah. Granada, another perennial yo-yo club, and Celta Vigo. I will point out, the Liga, once again, only 9 games, looks like, so far. Very early doors. Like, Villarreal's also near the bottom, but I would expect them to start pushing up as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think so we'll see, like, it would be awesome, but I don't think we can realistically expect Girona to be a top 4 team. Weirder things have happened. Yeah. We'll be following La Liga closely. Then moving to Deutschland, the Bundesliga currently has Bayer Leverkusen at the top of the table.
Yeah.
On 19 points. Let me just say this, that's not going to last. They're not going to win the Bundesliga. If Bayer Leverkusen win the Bundesliga, I will eat one of my hats.
Do I get to choose which hat?
No.
No.
Then we have VfB Stuttgart, then Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. At super early doors, like Bundesliga only has 18 games. They've only been 7 games in, mind you. There's only 18 teams. It's only a 34 4-game season. Lots of teams here that could definitely change hands. Last year's crowd favorite, FC Union Berlin, further down the table. We've got, teams that have FC Köln, one of the big clubs of Germany, at the bottom of the table. Yeah. Borussia Mönchengladbach, they're near the bottom there as well. This is the thing. It's one of the things happening in Germany. There's a lot of storied clubs with long traditions there are actually more Bundesliga winners currently in the 2 Bundesliga than in the Bundesliga.
Oh wow. That's crazy, really.
So that tells you that this is the fluid way that German football works. Sure, I fully expect by the end of the season we will have a top 2 of Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. We may then have a Leverkusen in 3rd place. Or maybe not. And we'll go there or thereabouts. There's just too much of a wealth gap between those 2 clubs and the rest of the league. Like, Bayern Munich is miles ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
Is a big gap ahead of Dortmund, and Dortmund is miles ahead of everybody else. And that's just generally how it works. And obviously, Dortmund almost won the won the Bundesliga last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they won it again, but let's face it, Bayern's probably gonna win.
Probably.
Title number 7? So title number 11? Would that be?
Yeah, whatever number it is. So, yeah.
Whatever number it is, exactly.
Just all of them.
Yeah. I think, like I said, we watched Bayern. The year that we watched Borussia Dortmund play against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final was the first year that Bayern Munich retained the Bundesliga, regained the Bundesliga again, and since then they've not lost the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
It was so long ago, I wasn't even married yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe even you weren't even married yet at that point.
No, I don't think I was. I was just like, it's so far back, Google doesn't have it on their list of seasons. That's how far back it is. So far back. So every season that is listed in Google has Bayern Munich at the top.
Yes.
Yeah. So
there's never been another club to win Bundesliga.
According to Google,
as far as your children and mine are aware of.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. As far as our children are aware, only Bayern Munich win the Bundesliga.
You can't say on TikTok that a team other than Bayern Munich has won this year. So next up, we go to the most interesting league in Europe with the Serie A. AC Milan, top of the table at the moment, going great guns. Giroud finding incredible form in goal somehow, because he's forced to play as a goalkeeper and had like an incredible game.
Wow. That is an amazing thing.
So good that he made the team of the week as a goalkeeper.
Wow. That's crazy.
And Christian Pulisic also playing incredibly well. Chelsea players doing really well at AC Milan.
Yeah.
Then we go to Inter Milan and second place, followed by Juventus and then Fiorentina. I will point out Juventus may still get more punishments. We don't know.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then we've got Napoli in fifth place. Look, Napoli are a good, really good team. They will come back up.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. Juventus will obviously be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. This is a very, very competitive league. It'll swap around massively before we know who's gonna be really winning. It's only just started, like we said. And then Atalanta just following up behind Napoli. I mean, those 6 teams are going to be finishing somewhere in the top 4. I mean, maybe Roma will sneak in as well?
Yeah. There is starting to get a bit of a gap. AC Milan starting to form a gap. Well, actually both the Milan teams really just starting to form a bit of a gap at the top. But yeah.
Yeah. But also point out that Romelu Lukaku is finding goals for his... Roma, for Jose Mourinho. He's getting the best out of him. They obviously had a bit of a shaky start to the season, but it's been slowly improving.
Well, the second best goal scorers in the league. Alright, they got 19 goals for. I think it was Inter's the only one scored more. Yeah, with 21 goals. So, Roma's problems aren't at the front.
Yeah, and I feel like we can always expect Mourinho to tighten things up at the back in the end. He'll get that out of them. And Roma, it's only a loan, but Chelsea are not getting Lukaku back to Chelsea.
No.
Roma could potentially get into another European spot with them. Jose Mourinho watch, just as we end all these podcasts with, he's a
watch.
Mowatch said that he fully expects to work in Saudi Arabia one day after his compatriot Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo led the way by joining El Nasser. What do you think about that? Mourinho working in Saudi.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, once Roma gets sick of him, that's probably where he'll go. I actually wondering, given even though Roma this season's sort of mid-table at the moment, I sort of feel like Jose's found a home at Roma. Really, it doesn't seem to be too much of the normal.
Yeah, I mean, he's taken them to back-to-back European finals, right? He won the Conference League, and he was in the final of the Europa League.
Exactly, and they can feel pretty somewhat hard done by that as well. So, it is what it is. So,
you're absolutely right. I think Jose can be hard done by, and I think he could potentially take Roma to another.
They're going pretty good so far in their group in the Europa League. Say they're 2 out of 2, so they've got to go play Prague. So
there's no easy fixtures in the Europa League. I think, or especially for a non Premier League club. They will probably do. They can potentially expect to make it to the finals again because Jose's just the cup king, right?
Yeah,
that's how he is. And if he can get them into the Champions League by winning the Europa League,
Oh, exactly. That's pretty awesome.
But who knows? He might just decide to join Saudi Arabia. It'll be an interesting thing. Like, the Serie A is going to be interesting as always. And this season looks like it's going to be interesting in the Premier League. So far, Bundesliga is in a very interesting start. Not that I expect. And look, they're called Neverkusen for a reason, guys. Let's not forget that. And but let's just call it there. Real Madrid's going to win La Liga. Can we all agree that's going to happen?
Yes.
Bayern Munich might not win the Bundesliga. Just put it out there. I think they will, but I'm not going to call it. They might not win it.
Ooh.
Borussia Dortmund might win it.
Yeah.
Neverkusen will definitely not win it. That is my definite prediction. And Serie A, I just feel like Napoli's going to make a run again.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'll be enough. They are slightly behind, but they're Napoli. Their style of play means that once they get a momentum, they're very hard to beat.
Yeah.
And Victor Osimhen's obviously a very good player. We'll see how it works out for them. But one of those three, AC Milan, Inter Milan, or Napoli are going to win.
Yeah, fair enough.
Serie A.
Yeah,
because I do think.
So I still feel that whilst Napoli can go on the run, it is 7 points to AC Milan already. That gap's starting to feel big, and it's not very far in, and it's hard to see Milan
AC Milan have a destiny feel about them, right? Because they have a look. If Giroud wins you a game as a goalkeeper,
yeah, exactly.
There's something special happening in your season, I feel.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna call it, but it does feel like they're in for a special season at Milan. Like those two Milan clubs are gonna be fighting it out to the end.
Yeah, I think so.
And as for England, but no, really, City's gonna win.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be really hard fought. It's gonna be really uncertain. But at the end of the day, City's gonna win because they always do.
Yeah. Exactly. On that note, thank you very much for listening. We hope to hear from you next time.
Catch you next time.
Well, that is the end. Thanks for listening all the way through.
If you liked what you heard, we have even more. NineSixFourTwo Discord and a Buy Me a Coffee.
Pretty sure it's Buy Me a Beer.
Oh yeah, buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com.
In both these places, you can talk to us, and we may even listen, especially if you do buy a said beer or coffee. I might still be confused.
Yes, we're easily bribed. All links are in the show notes below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is on YouTube.